Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. So today is a little bit of a different video for me because this is not a retro console at all. This is a PS5 Slim version and it has its HDMI port broken. So what I'm trying to achieve today is obviously fixing the broken HDMI port, cleaning the console out and give it back to those people who really enjoy playing Elden Ring on it. I'm Paul, this is my little mod shop, let's do this. So as I said, this is a PS5 Slim version and I have never worked with this. To actually get into the console, I need to flip it upside down and then I need to figure out a way to get those two shell parts off. Just prying it off. A lot of force, it is. Oh my god. Okay, you can also see there's a lot of dust buildup right here. It's good that we gonna clean this one up. Oh, now it's coming loose. There we go. So the disk drive just unplugs. Wow. Okay, this is nice. Here, the disk drive plugs right in there. Sweet. Okay, this is going nice so far. But I know what's coming up because this console do have a really lot amount of screws, and I come well prepared because we need to figure out which one of those pins is the right one for the job. Now first up we need to remove the fan and keep track of all the different screw lengths because I don't know if they're easy to mix up, but I will save them all separately. So this one is where the fan screws will go. Now the fan alone already has 3 different screw types. Those two go to the bottom one. This one is this very long one. And this one was right here. There we go. Get this one right here so we don't lose it. Okay. I will keep this one like so that I don't lose it. Don't ever just pull on the cables itself. Try to use something like a little tweezers and always try to pull on the connector itself. There we go. Okay, now the fan should come out easily. Okay, and you can see there's really a lot of dust and grime buildup from this one. We're gonna clean it up later. And there are a lot of screws right now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 screws to get the plastic cover right off. I'm laying all the screws right in the order that I've screwed them out of the console, so I can just reverse screw them in again in the right order. There's so much different screws right here. The only saving grace is that it's all the same hex head, so you don't need different bits. So that's a plus, I guess. We started here and ended here, this way around. Okay, so it turns out I missed a screw right under there. So let's just get this one out of the way. This will not void the warranty when you remove this sticker. Dude, it's always one last screw somewhere hidden. Doesn't make any sense. Let's take a look. Oh yeah, this one has been loved and was on a lot of hours because there's a lot of dust buildup right here. So now that the plastic cover is removed, we have the job to get all these screws out right here. It's gonna be a long one, so here's a little time lapse for you. Dude, I thought the Wii has a lot of screws, but then I came to the PS5. This is simply nuts. Okay, I think these are all the screws that need to get out. I think that's a screw we can leave in. Yeah, it comes right loose with that one. The next thing we need to do is get all little connectors right loose. We just pry a little bit on that. The white one is on the underside, the blue one is the top one, and we just really grab it like so. And it was wind up right here, just enough that we can get it out of the way. I think we're now clear. lot of thermal paste right there, but it looks fairly new, so we don't need to worry about that one right now. That one goes straight in how it came out. I did use a screw, but I get this one out too. Boom, right there. I think this one here is the banged up HDMI port right there. There's a little like thingy on there. I would just grab this one and just put it right there so I don't miss it to get it back. I've seen this in another video. This is great advice. Oh, we also need to get this one out of the way. So I will use this gentle pry tool right here. Stop screaming at me in the comments. Now it's out. We need to talk about the HGPU or the CPU, whatever you call it, because this one has liquid metal under this, on the other side actually. So we need to be careful to not get any dirt or something on it, and don't touch it at all. So be very careful with that one, because if you spoil the liquid metal anywhere, you need to have to clean it up. If you don't clean it up, you really risk shorting something on the board, hence making your PS5 completely unusable at all. So let's be really careful about that one. I will grab another container so I can put something over the liquid metal right now. So I couldn't find a smaller container than this one. This one will do. Oh, this one is really on there. Wow, this one comes off. You can also see there is a slight bend upwards right there. So this is to get the tension right when you press it down. There's another screw. I found another screw right there. Don't bend the board. Don't use some metal thing to pry on the board, because you can easily knock some of those really small capacitors off, and you really don't want to do that. Okay, so I broke a little thing. I will glue it back together. I think it just needs to keep the alignment straight, but I still will glue it together so this one will not be lost. Oh, okay, now the board is official out. This is power, I guess. This definitely looks like power. We're just gonna cover it up, and this is what we have to work now with. So let's just get the console out of the way. How do I cover up the liquid metal? I need to get another container. Now, would you look at that? I found the perfect container for the CPU, which will go right over there. Let's take some Kapton tape, stick it down. Now, we need to work with this guy right here. And as you can see, or maybe not, this one is actually a really thick piece of PCB. And to get the HDMI port off, or anything off this console, it is really advised to use something like this. This one here is a heat gun station. We need to work with it and actually heat up this part around the HDMI port with a little help, maybe, of something like this. This is a really cheap soldering iron. I think I paid around 10 bucks for it. The only thing you really need to consider is to get a really small tip, because we need to solder on all the small pins from the HDMI port, or recheck them. So it is really advised to have a really small tip, because we don't want to have any blobs on there, because it obviously won't work then. And I do also have something like this. This is really not needed, but it really helps. Oh, comes a long way if you do have something like this. This is like a PCB holder, and then we have a little more wiggle room to do this. This video is sponsored by PCBWay. If you're working on any electronics, hardware or DIY projects, PCBWay is the ultimate one-stop shop. They offer high-quality custom printed circuit boards starting at just $5 for 10 boards with incredibly fast turnaround times. But they do a lot more than just PCBs. Whether you need custom 3D printing, CNC machining or full board assembly to bring a prototype to life, they've got you covered. So again, huge thanks to PCBWay for sponsoring today's video, and click the link in the description to check out PCBWay and get a special discount on your first order. Now, let's get back to the HDMI port. Then let's figure out how to get this one off. Another thing to consider is that there is a little tiny capacitor right behind the HDMI port, and on the other side as well there are some components right there. I don't want them to fly off with the HDMI port, So I just use a little bit of Kapton tape, which is great because it doesn't care about heat, but what it does is putting everything in its place. Let's get some heat to it. And I think I use a little bit more heat. Let's try 360 or something. So the trick here is to not use any force getting this HDMI port out. So if you need to use force, it maybe is not hot enough. So just some motions in a circle to heat up the whole area, and eventually this may take a minute or two to actually get the board hot enough. Okay, maybe 360 isn't quite enough. Let's just increase it to like 400. It's a little soft, and there it is. Okay, so we got the HDMI off the board. Let me just show you how really bad this one got mangled up right in there. You get the idea of it. Alright, and now we need to get the new ones in. So I've ordered a bunch of them. These are 2, I just need 1 for now. Now let's just take a look at the new one. What I recommend is getting the old solder off the board. I think I use a little bit more heat than usual. The normal I will use 350 with a solder iron like this, but now I know that this one needs really much heat because especially the ground plane really sucks up all the heat from it. So what we actually need to get the old solder from the board is some soldering wick, obviously solder, our soldering iron, which is heated to 400 degrees right now because this one sucks a lot of air, a lot of heat. And I will use my soldering station once more to just get heat on the board while I'm using the soldering iron. And I will show you how to do this right now. We might need a little bit of flux to do this. Put the slightest dab of flux on it, and then let's put this one on and help to suck out all the solder. To get it off, let's retin all those connections a little bit. Alright, now let's grab our little piece of soldering wick and try to suck up all this solder. This one can be a little bit tricky because, as I said, there is so much heat required to get this one out of the board. Oh, just using the heat gun does the trick really well. Now you can see all 4 ground planes are actually empty. Let me clean this up a little bit. I use 99% alcohol, or IPA as you want to call it, and just get off all this grime and be very careful not to knock any of the other components off the board. Okay, all the adhesive from the Kapton tape is coming off as well, which shouldn't be a problem. Cool, this one is looking fine now. So then just let's take the fresh new HDMI port, use a little bit of flux to get it on the board, like so, put it in place. Okay, so now once again the HDMI port is in, and we just use our heat gun to heat up the area once again, and use some soldering wire to just put a tab on the ground planes to keep it in place for now. Now the HDMI is tucked in from all 4 sides, and you actually can see the solder has penetrated through the hole to the HDMI legs. Right there you can see it real good. And this is exactly what we want, because as you know, this is just a surface mount connector and it doesn't take a lot of force. So actually if someone comes and really just knocks it over or yanks the HDMI cable or something, this can easily be damaged. So now you know why nearly every PS5, if it has a fault, it oftentimes is the HDMI port itself. And to combat this, you really need to get a lot of solder right in those holes, so it has a good anchor point to not be affected by it as much. And now comes the difficult part, to actually tuck in all these little connections on the pins of the HDMI port. Now to really show you what's going on right there, I need a microscope to see what I'm doing here, because these connections are so small and so fragile. I can't see shit. Just coat it in flux for now. Then let's see if I just can tip it. And there we go. This is all it takes. The tiniest amount of solder is enough for those pins, and we will recheck them. Just heat them up. So I got a little bridge right there, which I need to get off the board as soon as possible. Okay, so now what I've been looking for right here is to actually see if there are some bridges in the part, but that doesn't seem to be any as far as I can see. Okay, so now I will continue assemble the console once more, but before we do that, we also need to just give this thing here a little bit of a cleanup, because as you can see, I have really made a mess right there. And to do that, I use some IPA, which I've got right here, and a little toothbrush and some cotton swabs. So let's just apply some IPA right there and give it a scrub, and then come in with cotton swab and get the rest of the residue as far as I can see off the board. I made some damage on the NVMe storage, I guess. I just burned the plastic a little bit. That's unfortunate and something you really need to be careful for. So now let's just proceed and get the PS5 back together. Alright, so it's been a hot minute. It's a few days later now. As you can see, I've managed to get the HDMI port working again. I may or may not have lightly burned the NVMe slots connector a little bit, and I want it to be flawless, so I put in a new one. And to get it really fast here, this is the only connector I could find on a PCB that was cheaply available on Amazon with a quick delivery. So that's what we're gonna rip this part off and get it onto the PlayStation 5. Alright, so let's do this. Okay, so all I do to get this connector off of the board is just with some tweezers, I get it locked in like this and just hold it up so gravity will do its job when the solder has melted. Okay, so now the board is fully repaired and all the components are soldered in. This component right here, the NVMe port, does have had a little beauty mark, but it's soldered in right now and it's actually working, so I'm not complaining. Now it's time to get the PS5 back together, but before we do that, one more thing I wanted to do is to clean up the whole plastics, because there is a lot of gunk on these parts. So let's just clean it up a little bit and then we're gonna assemble it. Console is still working, which is great. Alright, now would I recommend this kind of repair to do yourself? Well, It heavily depends if you have prior experience with soldering and have the right equipment for it. I am so glad that I have a hot air station available, because the only way to get every little pin soldered on is to use the soldering iron in conjunction with a hot air station. There is simply no way I could have done this without it. And as you saw me struggle with that M.2 NVMe port, it is very easy to break something. You need to be extra careful with handling this task. The main problem is that it's so hard to maintain temperature on the motherboard, so the solder would actually slip onto the pins. And I think a heating mat or something along those tools would have helped a lot to get everything done way faster. So without prior experience with difficult soldering jobs like these, there is no shot I would recommend a task like this to a hobbyist. It is better to bring a PS5 to someone who actually advertises those repairs, not your corner store that does smartphone repairs. But as for this particular project, I had a lot of fun getting this PS5 Slim back together. It is wild how much work goes into the thermal design to keep this machine cool enough. But I do think I better get back to my retro stuff for now. This was nonetheless a humbling experience in how fast things can go wrong on those modern machines. So if you liked what you saw, leave a like and subscribe, or leave a comment and let me know how to improve for future repairs. And if you're interested in Game Boys, boy do I have a really nice build for you right here in this video.